Snowman, good morning. Morning, Jim Racer. How are you guys? David, good morning. Shaq, good morning from Sydney. What time is it over there? It feels like it's probably the afternoon, no? What a move for this Inno data. BWXT, they had nice earnings last quarter. They just haven't done much since then. Yeah. Very nice. Gapping up 196 this morning, or 186, excuse me. Hood isn't one I can get into. It's already far too extended. NVIDIA I just bought yesterday and is coming out of a nice multi-month base. There is a chance I could add to this one over yesterday's highs. So I'm on the same page with you with NVIDIA for continuation. Hood, there's nothing I could do there. So far too extended. Let me just triple check. Hood is 6.3 times its ATR from the 50, so not buyable for me. NVIDIA is 1.62 times its ATR from the 50, so much more doable. Very easy to add something that is that tight. Yeah, they're not making it easy. I'll say that. My focus is on charts that are tight. So, for instance, I bought NVIDIA yesterday, very tight to its 50-day coming out of a flat base. I bought Microsoft yesterday, albeit a small position, trying to come out of a tight low cheat setup. Very, very tight here. And I bought Palantir, also not extended because of the most recent pullback, where you had the pullback into the 50, you held it, and then you just started to build higher lows. And I tried to buy it when we took out yesterday's highs. Unfortunately, I got shaken out at low of day. And, obviously by the end of the day, it ended up ripping back. But the idea is I'm okay buying more stocks, but they have to be coming out of tight areas. So, yeah, Racer, another good example of a name that's actually on my radar is Rocket Lab, right? For me, it's very simple. You start to break below the 50, I'll leave you alone. But you start to take out this little multi-day channel where this thing has just been going sideways for the last 3-4 days, and you start to break above, call it 48, then all of a sudden, I can just risk down to the 50-day 46.5, and I'll be just fine. A nice tight area for me to manage risk from. So I'm okay to quote unquote get aggressive buying stuff, but it has to be, from tight areas. Like I won't chase something. Like I look at Hood, you can't chase that. Right? What am I supposed to do? Buy this on the third green day in a row after a huge 2-day push? Yeah, I don't think so. Right? When it's 30% away from its 50-day, can't do that. Okay, so with BE, for instance, if you were in from 40, my guess is you should have been trimming in more and more into this. The more extended you got from your 50 every day, you should have been trimming into the strength. So like at 40, I would have been trimming some at 60. I probably would have been trimming some more at 70. I would have been trimming some more at, 78, 80, 82, all of these extensions. So like I have a very simple rule. I try my best to follow it. And basically, once you get 7 times its ATR from the 50, then I trim a piece, right? So 3 to 5 days of a nice push, I trim. And then once I get to 7 times its ATR from the 50, I trim some more. And then every average true range over 7, I keep trimming 20% of what I have left, right? So that's the key part of what you have left. So you always kind of want to leave yourself with a little something. And if this were to just to have pulled back before it got wildly extended, let's just say it started to pause here and go sideways and build higher lows, then structurally you would use the higher lows that it's building as your next stop level. So, and then eventually, the 20 ends up catching up, right? It ends up catching up to one of those higher lows. Almost like ARC, for example. I've given this as an example before, right? So, I bought this thing on 6.6 and then it just pulled back and found support at the 10, and then it pulled back and found support at the 10. And all these times this thing is pulling back, it's finding support at rising moving averages. So this little pullback here didn't bother me. Why? Because I was already trimmed on the position. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, this has earned the right, since I'm trimmed, for me to just let it work and see what happens, right? And immediately it started to bounce right back, right? So all of a sudden, after a few weeks, it built another higher low off of the 50-day, another higher low. And I kept inching up my stop using the 50 simple moving average, but really the structure of price chart, which is far more important than a lagging moving average. So just the way I view it, right? And there's been nothing wrong with ARC ever since. And then at that point, you might be trailing your 20-day, you might be trailing your 50, eventually I might be trailing the 200. And again, the 200 is now above my cost basis, but I'm not going to use the 200 just yet. So we'll give that some time before I ever end up using the 200. Yeah, ANET doesn't look too bad. Might be pretty good if it take out 146. Do I recall the reversal from all-time high on NVIDIA? I mean, there's been a lot of those. This stock keeps making all-time highs, so you'll have to refresh my memory over the last 2-3 years since NVIDIA continues to make all-time highs, it feels like. And this little dip overnight, I mean, NVIDIA is down $1.50 overnight. I'm not going to stress myself over $1.50 on a $200 stock, basically.
On AS and as significant order for major Southern European.
Yeah, I don't know what Microsoft's going to do. All I know is that it's a very tight area, and then over, effectively $519, I would be adding to that. Yeah, I saw a run. They got a price target increase. I don't know. That's a reason to chase a gap up, but this thing doesn't look bad. AMD also looks ready if it can clear that 165. 165.10. Yeah, I bought it over a prior day high. I personally don't need NVIDIA to go and take out 184.47 in order for me to be interested in it, or 184.55. Right? For me, over 184 was more than enough, which was prior day high. Right? I'm seeing this action. I'm comfortable to buy there and set my stop at low of day. I don't need to wait 20 more cents. Hut, SoFi, Affirm, Coin. Yeah, Bitcoin perking up overnight. That's definitely helpful. Yeah, looks like Coin is trying to establish itself back above the 50. That's really good. Hopefully, Bitcoin will stick around and, this thing could be buyable again in a few days. Hut, there's no setup here for me. Although, some people might just call this a little inside day and just buy the break of the inside day. Not bad. 35.53. We'll see. Throw this one up on the radar just in case. SoFi. Yeah, there's no setup for me here either. Cypher, there's no setup for me there either. I was looking at that one last night. Yeah, I mean, if you feel comfortable buying this as just a bounce off the 20, that's fine, but still too extended from the 50 for me to buy it. I was literally just looking at this one 10 seconds ago too. Let's just see if it'll build a higher low. It's got to get back above the 20 simple moving average. So for me, it's got to get over 82 bucks. MSFU, I don't think it's a TU. I think it's just MSFU. Yeah, this one was playable too. I only took a half position in this thing anyway. And it doesn't move a whole lot faster. It moves 2.7%. It's not that great. NVDL, I could have done NVDL as well, but doesn't make a whole lot of difference to me. More than enough buying power at the moment. I know, there are some people who will talk about buying the leveraged ETFs all the time, but it doesn't really make a difference to me if I have more than enough buying power. Yeah, BG, it's actually who I would say swing trading benefits most. Anybody who's got a full-time job, swing trading is much more relevant of a type of trading you can do than day trading's not going to work. Yeah, your focus is on daily charts. Your execution comes on a 5-minute chart, typically within the first hour of the morning, and then you're done. And you can go about your day, right? You buy an NVIDIA right at the open. You set your stop at low of day. You go to your 9 to 5. Every now and again, you check in with your position and you have a hard stop on it. So no, I don't like this chart at all. Not only is it not that fast, it only trades $10 million a day. Yeah, MCore, a recent S&P 500 edition. Not bad. Gorgeous base, honestly. No. I don't like this Bria at all. It's just random price action. Some stock that goes from 8 to 50. Did they cure cancer legitimately? I don't know. I don't trade stuff like this. Far too random. Yep, I'm still short MSTR. I certainly didn't expect a 10-point gap up overnight, but I'll deal with it in the morning. So I am in from 348 bucks. So obviously I've given back some money, but I am still green on the position. And I was using the 20 simple moving average as my stop, which was roughly 328 bucks. And we are gapping up above that just a little bit. So we'll see if there's a little bit of a morning sell-off and then we stay underneath the 20, or if we're going to stay above the 20, then I'll just cover some off and then I'll deal with it from there. Well, when crude oil is getting its ass kicked that hard, in particular over the last few days, you'll notice, right? So you get this upper wick almost right against the 200. Then you get 3 down days in a row. Call it 2 because you can't really look at the overnight today. So 2 down days in a row. And then look at exactly how the XLE looks, right? You get this upper wick and then you get 2 down days in a row. Any surprise that the energy. XLE is full of a bunch of oil and gas stocks, and then oil and gas is going down pretty strongly over the last few days, and the XLE goes down with it, which would then also mean that a few oil and gas stocks are getting their butts kicked too. So I want to make sure I'm executing when markets are going up, especially the markets that I'm trading. Yeah, not bad. Yeah, not terrible. Crypto related. I don't know that it's the best crypto name, but no, I've got no interest in Open. I've also got no interest in a Hut, maybe a little bit, not Cypher. This one because it's not as extended. But ideally, another week would do these things a whole lot better. But, they might not wait a week for me. How do I see Lumen, Peloton? That's too many names. I see Lumen as kind of a laggard. Give me your whole watch list. I mean, a little sloppy, but it looks fine. Looks like it's trying to turn back up. This kind of looks like I don't know if I would compare it to like SOUN or something like that. Peloton, this one's also looks like it's starting to change character. They hinted at some new product or something yesterday. Yeah, I don't really see this setup here just yet, but it is starting to surf the 20, which is good. Oscar's also in a big base. Healthcare stocks are starting to look better. I'm not sure. And ABCL. Nah, too thin. 20 million bucks a day. Nah, too thin. Yeah. Crypto looks strong this morning, in your opinion? What about crypto is strong? Ethereum's up 3%, Bitcoin's up 2%. It looks strong because the underlying assets are up a shitload this morning. Yeah, what's up? What about my OST short? You have a question? Walmart squatted yesterday. I wouldn't even really be looking at this thing. Too slow. Moves 1.39%. If you like Walmart, just tell your grandmother about it, right? Be like, Granny, you know what looks awesome out there? Walmart looks good. Right? She'll be patient with it. There's no reason for you to buy Walmart. Not if you want to make money, this decade. Yeah, I was just looking at Reddit this morning. Yeah, crushed. Apparently, there's less traffic on their website because of ChatGPT. Palantir, if it can offer an inside day, how many more inside days does Palantir need? Palantir looks like it's ready to go. I mean, yesterday's volatility was like nothing. I mean, this thing could use an expansion candle, not another inside day. What do you want this thing to trade in a $1 range all day? No, I don't think it matters. Here's the thing. Waiting for 184.51, it makes no difference. Right? Or if you just bought it at 184 on the dot, it makes no difference. As long as you size it properly, and you're not necessarily chasing the breakout, then you're fine. No, I just didn't. I just didn't buy it back. Hindsight's 2020. I didn't know it was going to bounce back so strongly, but my stop was low day. What I should have done was give it a moment to see if it would bounce on the 10, and it did. So, cost myself, a little chunk of change there. Nasty action on the SPY the last few days? I would disagree. Look at the daily. I think you're putting too much emphasis on the intraday action when what's wrong with this daily chart? Right? Like I'm trying to find what is necessarily wrong with this daily chart. So when someone says nasty, like if you're out there trading the ES and the NQ, yeah, maybe it's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but look at this daily. We've just been grinding above the 20 and the 50 simple moving average since May. I mean, literally, we got above the 50 in May, and we've been above it since what looks to be May 2nd. It's basically October 2nd, right? We've been above it for 5 straight months. And if you think these last few days have been nasty action, well, what'd you make of this action over here? This I thought was pretty nasty action. This in here I thought was pretty annoying action. This here, there's nothing wrong with this. It's normal. Again, if you're trading the NQ and the ES, yeah, fine. I could agree. Maybe it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. But if you're trading stocks, I mean, stocks have been acting pretty well. Can I show an example of one winner and one loser that I define as an A-plus setup? Yeah, just as simple as yesterday. I mean, really, I don't. Okay, so here's one. NVIDIA I thought was an A-plus setup. Right? If it stops me out at yesterday's low of day, right, what could have been a winner then turns into a loser on what I define as an A-plus setup. So we'll see. I didn't think Palantir was all that bad either. MO cigarette company, Altria, doesn't look bad, just far too slow. I kind of like Neo a little bit earlier. I mean, this looks like it wants to keep going, but we talked about this yesterday on stream. This thing has given really textbook bull flags. I mean, really textbook, 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Does this one go on to work? I have no idea. Yeah, Bitfarms. Maybe it builds another higher low, allows the 50 to catch up a little bit more. Super move. Super move. Yeah, Meta's kind of a pain in the butt. Meta has been showing some weakness below the 50 now. And I talked about this yesterday in the room. I don't want to see Meta living below the 50-day. And on this day, it closed below. And then ever since then, just weakness. And yeah, we're already breaking prior day low. It's not necessarily a good thing. What do we have here? 721.73. I mean, I guess we'll see if it can bounce right there. But yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that Amazon's another one that's been acting, once you lose the 50-day, it can get violent. That's like normally the first spot, that's like a red. That's like the caution sign being thrown up, right? I don't really like to buy stocks below a 50-day. Well, it depends. My minimum ADR, if I have money that I can play with, I'll go, 2%. I'll buy a Microsoft. I don't care. But if I'm like running out of money and I'm getting close to margin, I really try to keep it to 4% and above. But I've got money to work with. So it's like, would you rather make slow money or would you rather make no money? What use you give to the left? I don't understand this question. Could you rephrase it, Fernando? Not sure. You bought Tilray on September 29th. Right at the 1 minute opening range break after the market opened. Do you have any advice how I should have managed this position? Well, when you get a move like this, let's just say you bought it, I'm assuming, dollar, call it even $1.40, right? When you get a 30% move in a day, you should have trimmed. If you get a 20% move in a day, you should trim. That's just my opinion. Do what you want, but yeah, trim. Trim into the strength. I mean, if you're buying it down here and you get that kind of a move by the close, trim. I mean, even if it's a fifth of your position, and then there's nothing wrong with it. You just be letting it work for now on the daily. Yes. I look to add to stocks that are pulling back to ascending moving averages. If it can bounce cleanly off of the rising 10 and the 20, something like that. And once I've already trimmed, I'm comfortable to add, more to that position. It depends. It depends like where it's coming from. Like if it breaks that key moving average, early in the day and it starts to lose it, on a pickup in volume, I let it go right away. If it's like, had to drop, let's say like 4% to get there, and then it kind of just starts to flirt with it, then I just, we'll wait till the close. It really depends. No, day trading is fine, but if you work for a living, like you have a career, then day trading is not viable because you're waiting for news to hit, right? Like you're normally trading press releases, you're trading news, you're trading breaking news, you're trading, whatever it might be, but like you're waiting for trades all day long versus when you're a swing trader, you might be in something for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and months. And that's the idea. Like imagine if you could have shown up on this day, bought ARK first thing in the morning, just like I did, and still be in it. Right. I mean, I've been in this thing now for almost 4 months. Wouldn't you like the most amount of money you'll be up on this trade was yesterday? I mean, wouldn't that feel pretty good as also working a 9 to 5? So yeah, and if you have to day trade every single day, that's so shitty, especially watching something having gone up like this. And imagine you also nailed the same entry I did, but you sold it at the end of the day. That would suck to look at it and be like, man, had I just held it for 3 months or whatever it was, held it for 4 months, 3 months, that'd be way better. CoreWeave's fine. They keep getting all these deals. So something's in the water for CoreWeave. I don't see a setup I like. So there's just nothing I can do with it. But they keep getting all these deals, and I feel like you don't just get a deal with Meta if you're a total, turd.
On point,
There is going to be no indicator. I mean, you can make an indicator to help you figure out run rate, like how much more volume is coming in at this particular time, and then kind of extrapolate that for the remainder of the day and how much more volume that'll be versus prior day. But not something I really do. I just physically look at the volume bar that's coming in. ASTS isn't too bad. Maybe back over 52.5. You bought COGT on Friday? Not bad. A little illiquid, but it looks fine. Sold your SMTC and then gapped and moved like 13%. Well, why'd you sell your SMTC? That's the better question. Depends where you owned it from, but there'd be no reason. I already talked about MO. Too slow. What about IONQ? I'm short IONQ from $74. I'm looking for potentially a move down to the 20 days so I can start to cover some. Yeah, Coinbase looks fine. I don't know that I'm going to buy it today. It needs to establish itself above the 50-day for a few days. Apple a little extended, potentially looks good for an add-on over 257. We'll see. Yeah, run. If solars are acting well, that one could also be interesting. All it did was get a price target increase, though. Don't know if that's what's worth chasing, but it does look fine. I have no idea yet. I have no idea how I would get into CoreWeave because it just doesn't really fit my eye yet. Maybe a pullback versus an ascending moving average on the daily. I don't know. I don't trade these individual biotechs on their own, but if you'll look at LabU or really the XBI, yesterday the XBI was at like its closing high for the quarter. So biotechs are acting well. I would look to get myself positioned in like XBI or LabU, before any one of those biotechs. Thoughts on Wayfair? Wayfair looks pretty good. Liquid and, moves pretty quick. Almost 5% per day. Not bad. Yeah, I like what this Wayfair looks like. Maybe a little bit of a bigger base here, but it's such a tight day. If this thing starts taking out yesterday's highs, that could be interesting. NTLA. Yeah, just starting to get back above its 200. I wonder how CRISPR looks. Yeah, these kind of looking similar. Starting to get back above the 200. Not bad, NTLA. No, I just do some quick mental math, but I've got a kind of like a bot in the Discord that, I can figure out exactly how far on ATR something's extended from the 50-day. Yeah, solar's kind of a pain in the butt. They're just kind of like grinding an FSLR higher. And I don't really see an explosive setup here. I just see something that's just surfing the 20, but nothing I can really buy. Walmart, yeah, grandma, tell grandma about it. My thoughts on the NVIDIA breakout seemed a little weak to you. I mean, I don't know how much more we can expect NVIDIA to go up at one time, but I think NVIDIA looks fine. We'll see if it breaks yesterday's low of day or continues higher. I have no opinion. I really don't care. Look, here's the reality, guys. I'm wrong 65% of the time, and I still make money. So I'm wrong more than I'm right, and I still make money. So it's like being like, oh yeah, man, I really need NVIDIA to work. I really don't. In fact, I can give a shit less if it works or it doesn't. And that's really a good position to be in when you know your stats, right? I'm only have a 35 to 40% hit rate, and I'm red on 60% of my trades. So, it doesn't matter if NVIDIA fails or looked a little bit weak on it had a setup I understood, which is a very simple flat base breakout. I sized properly on that breakout. It pushed away from my average nicely, and I'm still green on the trade. It's all I can really ask for. And now today I can manage that risk accordingly. So, what it goes on to do today is totally irrelevant to, my level of care. Like, it just doesn't matter. Really, it doesn't matter. You just, in order to get the multiple, you just take the stock's ATR and you divide it from the distance from the 50 simple moving average. And that will give you the multiple of extension from the 50. Yes, I think Microsoft moves entirely too slow, which is why I only took a half size position, because I refuse to allocate more capital to make up for how slow it is. Or I refuse to take 10% of my portfolio and put it there because of how slow it is. I think ANET looks interesting. If the data center names are going to continue, ANET doesn't look too bad. It's another slow one, right? It doesn't really go. I thought ANET was nicest down here, right? When it got back above the 200, and then built this little tiny bull flag above. Peloton should be an EP. Yeah, who knows? Is it too late to get into NVIDIA breakout? I don't think so. It's not very extended from the 50. So, if we can break over today's highs, I might be adding some more if the market's hanging in there. Yeah, I do not. If this means if I'm adding to losers, I don't add to losers. I add to my position, but I only add to a winning position. Yeah, we'll see. Is this trying to bounce off the 50? We'll see. I'd like to see it kind of hold the 50 and reclaim the 20, maybe back over $27. Yeah, something like that. VRT does look really nice. I was looking at this one yesterday. Yeah, it's got a nice flat base going here. Yeah, we'll see. I didn't like I tried AVGO a couple times a few days ago, and, I really didn't like that action. We'll see. How many home runs are 50% and above? I don't know. Probably one out of every 15 trades or something like that. I have no idea. So 23 and 24 were triple digit gains. Obviously 22 was not. 21 was, I absolutely crushed it. 20, I absolutely crushed it. Far more than, 1,000% in 21. But again, I was day trading and it was a super hot market and I was super aggressive. And this year it'll be under triple digit gains. But as the portfolio gets bigger, it's really hard to do triple digit gains, honestly. Some people can do it, but do I think that open is buyable above yesterday's highs? I really don't like this setup here. I really don't know that I love this story enough to think that the stock should be justified being up this much as it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. And yesterday is such a tight day that if you buy it over prior day high, maybe it's good. I don't know. I don't care enough about Open Door. My issue is I like a stock to move organically when it's just being pumped shamelessly by a former failed hedge fund manager. Leaves a bad taste in my mouth. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a Eric Jackson ape. And so for that reason, I'd rather just leave it alone. Focus on real companies. AMD is not necessarily a setup like ARC, but it is a nice little, what I call a low cheat setup. So kind of learned that little setup from Mark Minervini. It is what I think is a low cheat setup. We'll see if it can get back above the 50-day. If it can get back above the 50-day and 165, I would be a buyer. Thoughts on Futu? A little bit choppy Futu as of late, down here. We'll see if this thing can, get back above its 20 simple moving average. I've seen guys try to buy this, the last few days here and every day. They're just kind of struggling with it. You kind of got to wait for it to just get above and hold above the 20 simple moving average. I won't join the USIC. I've thought about doing it, but at this point, I'm more so focused on just growing my portfolio. Like I would do well if I knocked my portfolio down to $1 million and then traded with that, but I trade with far more than that. So it's like, and to grow my portfolio 100%, which is what some of these people are doing, you're not really going to do that with my portfolio in the year, right? It's just not going to happen. I mean, it could happen, but you'd have to trade really aggressively as well. And that's not something that I do or that I'm comfortable doing. So I just kind of stay in my own lane and, Not worried about the USIC, man. I'm not writing a book, so it doesn't matter to me. Because ARK was building higher lows. I talked about this already. Right? I mean, I bought this thing at 59 and I already had trimmed into this move. Right? So it's like when it broke the 20 and then instantly came right back up and then pulled back again and then built a higher low. I mean, this price here is higher than this price here. So it's like I was giving it room to work down to the 50-day and it held. So that's why I didn't cash out, because you have to be patient with your winning trades. That's how they become bigger winners. Yeah, BWXT looks pretty interesting. SNDK is kind of wild. Yesterday, it started to show a little bit of weakness, but, could easily cap right back up today. Yeah, I don't know if SNDK is a short just yet. We'll see. I'm still short MSTR, yes. How am I managing risk on NVIDIA? Stops at yesterday's low of day. Hive is kind of a laggard in that sector. Kind of a laggard. Nice to see it turning up. I mean, it's hanging in there. GEV short is your idea of the day? Yeah, maybe. It's down $13 this pre-market. Could be. Don't know that I would necessarily chase this thing as a short, but yeah, I mean, if it takes out that 596 level, who knows? It is possible. Yeah, Rocket, you would think it would be performing well with interest rates being cut. Nice bounce off the 50 yesterday. Small little gap up this morning. Let it see if it'll take out a prior day channel. Yeah, there's just too many. I don't trade bios. And if I do, it would be the ETF. But there's just been too many stocks out there that'll get crushed on the bio side. UMAC, the drone name. Fine, I just don't see a setup here. Right? There's just no setup. Like, you really going to come in and buy it on Green Day number 5? It could keep going, I'm sure, but doesn't really matter. If I had $1 million account, am I putting 10K into every position? No, you'd be doing 100K into every position. 10% position, not 1% positions. 1% position is not going to move the needle at all. Right? Imagine the stock having to go up 200% and you moved your portfolio 2%. I mean, that sounds kind of miserable, doesn't it? Yeah, no, 10% positions, between 5 and 10% positions. No, I'm not too worried about NVIDIA. Guys, it just closed at a new all-time high. Does it keep going? Maybe. Does it break yesterday's low of day? Maybe. I don't care what happens with it. Sure. Do I want to make money and watch it go higher? Of course I do. But there's nothing erratic about this price action at all. This is what charts do. They go up, they go sideways. For those of you who have been here with me every single day for the last, few months, and I know some of you guys have been, you guys have heard me say that 1,000,000 times. Stocks go up, they go sideways. They go up, they go sideways. They go up, they build a bull flag. They go up, they build a high type flag. They go up, they build new bases. That's what they do, right? NVIDIA has done nothing wrong. You go from 87, call it $90, all the way to 180. 2 months of sideways with a bunch of erratic in there is totally normal. But it didn't die. It just went sideways. No, I try not to. I really try not to get out too early. I am trying to study, and I will study some of, what Jeff Sun talks about, like stopping out in thirds to lower your risk. Had I done that maybe in Palantir yesterday, that would have helped me. But, stopping out in thirds, I think, is a good option. But no, normally I just sit put I just stay in my position and just let it work. And if it hits low of day, it hits low of day. I just didn't buy enough. I mean, even MSFU doesn't move that fast either way. So doesn't matter. Yeah, a little bit more juice. Yeah, I could have. I really could have, but I didn't. I mean, that's why they're there, right? I should take advantage of them more. But I have plenty of cash, still on the sideline that I could put to work. So yeah, Datadog looks okay. Maybe back over this little inside days high. Oh yeah, I scale out. I normally try to trim a piece between days 3 to 5 into a push. And then, I trim more as we get extended from the 50. How much cushion do I need? It's not a percent base. It's because stocks move at different, kind of percents every day. Some faster than others. But I would just need a few multiples of my risk. And here's the thing, like if a stock gives me a few multiples of my risk already, I tend to trim some off. And then I'm just looking to add those shares and maybe a little bit more back. And when I do that, even on my ads, I treat that as a brand new position as if I didn't own it. I had this conversation and I've heard Lance talk about it too, where it's like when you buy something, you almost want to treat it as if you didn't own it at all. So when I go to add to that position, I add it as if I didn't own it at all. So where will I manage risk on this brand new position, forgetting that I already own shares from lower? And that's kind of how I treat it. I'm okay to add as long as the daily setup is one I understand and I treat it as if I didn't own it at all. Not a single setup today again. We totally disagree. You know what? This is a good question. I don't really think about that too much. When I buy a 50 simple moving average reclaim or undercut and rally, so long as it's in a good group and the market's pushing higher, like if I'm buying a tech stock that's reclaiming the 50, or, if I were looking at Coinbase today and it's reclaiming the 50, I'd want to make sure that the crypto names are still acting well, right? In particular, MSTR and Bitcoin. And then that's really all I think about. Right. I don't need like the 10 and the 20 to still be above or anything like that. Doesn't really bother me. Yeah, leverage kind of decay. Leveraged ETFs are no good when the price chart goes sideways. Yes, I talk about this all the time. If instead of day trading, I were swing trading, I would have done much better. No, BMNR is not on my watch. I would rather own ETHU versus BMNR. Like, guys, I'm going to only say this one more time. Why would you want to own MSTR or BMNR when the people who run those stocks are selling more of that stock to buy the thing that you hope goes higher so that your stock will go higher? So in other words, Tom Lee is diluting BMNR to buy Ethereum. So he's selling BMNR to buy Ethereum. And then here you come buying BMNR, the thing he is selling, and then you're not buying the thing he's buying. Make that make sense. It makes no sense. It's the reason MSTR has been underperforming Bitcoin now for months. I mean, over like the last 3 months or 2 months, MSTR's red. Bitcoin's basically flat. Like, why would you want to buy the thing that's red? You're just wasting your time and money. Same with BMNR. Don't be a clown and let yourself get diluted for no reason. That doesn't make any sense. I know you're smarter than that. No, so BMNR is in the trash. That's where I put these treasury stocks. Could they go higher? Could it make another sweet move? Yeah, fantastic. Great. In which case, I'll own Ethereum, ETHU. Yeah, Rocket Lab looks pretty interesting, nice and tight against the 50. I already talked about NEO a couple times. Guys, the size of my trading portfolio doesn't not matter to any of you guys. It's a lot. It's a lot more than what you're already thinking, but it doesn't matter. Thoughts on MP? I ended up closing it the other day. So on this nasty down day, I trimmed some on 925. I closed the rest of it on 926. I bought it on 99. So just unacceptable price action. Like this is total nonsense. I'm not going to be dealing with price action like that. Thoughts on team? Still a little choppy. I don't really see a spot for it. LAC, I don't love the news. You know, it's like these things are just moving super violently because the government's out there buying shares. You know, was it buyable yesterday? Maybe. And then obviously you get a little bit lucky today. Thoughts on SOLZ? Let me look at SOLT. Yeah, maybe. Gapping up as well overnight. Yeah, could be ready to go. KTOS, I'm not just going to short something that's in a cleanup trend like this. Yeah, it's getting a little extended, but I thought it was good from like the mid to high 60s. You know, we talked about it in here. We even talked about it in the Discord. And, you know, look at this thing go. Yeah, I don't really see a reason to short this just yet. Yeah, I want price to be above the 200 simple moving average. That's the very first requirement for me to buy a stock. Any thoughts on RCAT? Drone name. All right, and I got to get going after this. Let me see. No, it looks like shit. It looks like a laggard. I'm about a little over 50% exposure at the moment. No, my stop is at the low of the day. And if it hits in the middle of the day, I just close my position. I don't just sit there and wait for it to get worse. And I'll give you one quick example as to why I don't do that. So I bought AVGO a few days ago as it was trying to take out prior day high. So literally right in here. Okay. And I bought this thing first thing in the morning. And then I was like, okay, my stop is low of day. Well, guess what? If I hung out with this thing and didn't respect my low of day stop and I waited till the end of the day, look at how much worse this got. Make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. No, hood is not a buy up here at all. I'll rebuy SYM when I see a better setup. I don't see one at the moment. I don't know if I like Roblox at the moment either, but it is still a really strong chart hanging out. Anyway, guys, I love you guys all. Thank you guys for being here. I will see you guys bright and early in the morning tomorrow. Trade them well today. Let the market settle a few minutes. You know, is the market going to kind of roll back over? We are, you know, down 0.5%, or is the market going to bounce as it's been doing, you know, every day for the last who knows how many months now? So I will see you guys bright and early. Trade them well. Any questions, you guys could always shoot me a message on X or in the room. Cheers, guys.